Welcome to the Torah Birthing Podcast. Hey, my name is Batya Khan. I'm a Rebbetzin, doula, and childbirth educator. My mission is to help women have the best transition into motherhood that you could possibly wish for, so you could fulfill your tafkid with support and recognize the power that you have. The Torah is the guidebook for our lives. It's the best mindset work that you could possibly do. Are you familiar with it? It's important to know, it's important to learn. So let's do this. Pesach is a really stressful time in general. It's expensive if you're making it yourself. And it's expensive if you're going to a program, and then you also have to pack. It's stressful if you have to clean, and it could cause anxiety if you're going to family. There was a whole discussion on Instagram about locks on doors. And I was like, wow, this is a lot to have to deal with. And the money and the financial situation, it's all a lot. So however you're doing it and wherever you're being, it's a busy time of year with a lot of things to consider. And if you throw a pregnancy into that mix, it becomes a whole lot more. And it's true at any stage of the pregnancy, but especially if you're due around or on Pesach itself. So there are several topics that I'm going to go into about things that you can consider and things that might be helpful to you. Many of them could be for this Pesach, but some of them might be for a future Pesach. In Mir Hashem, you won't need to implement any of them, even for this year, because we will all be in Yerushalayim. We don't say L'Shana Haba b'Yerushalayim for no reason, you know. Some of these questions are from Instagram, and some of them are from my clients. And there's a lot to unpack here. We're going to talk about how to deal with questions that come up around taking prenatal vitamins, pregnancy nausea, navigating gestational diabetes and the Seder, going away if you're due around Pesach, how do you do that? What to do if your home birth team is not Jewish? And also an interesting question that came up around oral vitamin K. So let's dive right in. For prenatal vitamins, there is a Kosher LePesach section on koshervitamins.com where they have prenatals by Maxi Health. And there's also another brand that's called Frida. But I would say if you're having nausea issues, this might not be the go-to. It's kind of a little bit harsher on the stomach. And even Ashkenazim can have kidneys in the necessary medications if there are no good alternatives. And this comes under that. And I just want to go on a little bit of a tangent here to talk about kidneys, because some people seem to think that there is a sort of made-up scam here. That kidneys is a made-up thing that's meant to be divisive among Jews. But that's not true. The fact that Sephardim can have it and Ashkenazim can't is just one of the biggest differences between us. And it's one of the most famous minhagim that holds extremely strong status, like halacha. But guess what? Just because we're different doesn't mean we are divided. Each one of us is different, and each one of us is special and unique. We're all standing together in all of our nuances and all of our differences. We're all united, but each set of our minhagim are beautiful. I feel like a lot of us Ashkenazim are glorifying and talking about Sephardi minhagim as if their culture is so cool. And it is. But guess what? There are ancient, awesome Ashkenaz minhagim and culture that is also beautiful. Just completely different. So I do want to say, though, if you are finding it hard to be Ashkenaz, for example, if you were Sephardi and married Ashkenaz, it's okay to be disappointed. And this is definitely something that you could talk over with a Rav. but it makes me really sad to see people trashing such a holy and important thing. So that's what I have to say on that. And the thing is that someone asked me a question, and she said that she can't keep down pills, or for whatever reason, if you can't swallow pills, and there aren't any official ones on those lists, you could find out about the ingredients of a gummy prenatal that she wanted to take and ask your Rav about it. Here's the thing. If you have something that you aren't sure about, you could always ask a Rav. And I got to do a separate episode on that. But the point is that asking a Rav about something makes it Ratzon Hashem. That's how you are actually doing what Hashem wants. And it is so important. And it changes your whole reality. And that is how we do Yiddishkeit, how we live with Hashem. So now let's talk about pregnancy nausea. And there are levels, obviously, and medications that you could take for it are under the same category as what I explained about prenatals, because they are pills. So sometimes this could even be even more of a need than prenatals, actually, because nausea could be so debilitating for some of us. And the most common over-the-counter option is to take Unisom, or the medication name is actually doxylamine. And you don't have to take the Unisom brand. That's just the brand name. Like we say Tylenol for all of that stuff. But Unisom is actually, the main ingredient is doxylamine. So the store brands like Amazon can often be much cheaper, and you could take that just fine and it works the same. And you take that along with B6, vitamin B6. And I also know some people who have taken only one or the other, and that's been helpful for them. So if you don't have it on hand for whatever reason, or if you want to try one or the other, you don't have to specifically take them together in order for them to work. Obviously, they work much better when they're together. And also, there are the stronger doses of the combo that are prescriptions and are not over the counter. You could ask your provider to get a prescription for those. And if you aren't interested or have no need for the medications, you could still do a lot of the natural things that are food-based on Pesach also. And it just could get problematic for nausea when it comes to the Seder. And the recommendation is to eat often in small amounts, and that helps a lot. But the food at the Seder and the way that it's eaten is really not ideal for this, to say the least. You don't have to suffer, though. You can have a quicker Seder, and you can call your Rav in advance and ask at what points of the Seder in between you could eat. And also for this, and for gestational diabetes, you could pre-measure before Pesach, before Yom Tov, exact quantities of what you need. So you're not doing too much, and you're only doing exactly what's necessary. So if either of those is you, definitely put this on your list and get in touch with your Rav to figure out the best way for you individually. And someone asked about 4 cups of wine. And you could totally do grape juice, obviously. That's something you can replace for that. And the sugar content is kind of high on that, so that could also be on your list to ask your Rav. But if you want to actually get into the whole alcohol discussion, there is a book called Expecting Better by Emily Oster. And it's very controversial, though. I'm not recommending it, but if you want to read it and ask questions about it to your provider, have that discussion, I say go for it. An informed consumer is the better consumer. Anything can be a discussion with mutual respect between you and your provider. Totally advocating for any discussions and any questions that you want to ask your provider. So now let's talk about the actual birth stuff. What if you are due on Pesach or in the Pesach window? Maybe it's too much for you to actually make Pesach and you're really stressed that you can't go away. I got a very interesting take on this anonymously submitted. She said she was due on Pesach, different year, and she knew that she always goes over, so she didn't stress. She went away and her baby was born 3 weeks later. And I love that she wasn't stressed and she was able to just let her baby do its thing and come at the right time. And I also know that it's really hard not to be worried about this. So we don't all know what's going to happen if you're in your due window. Even if you know that you are always overdue, something could be different with this baby. But that doesn't mean that you can't go away either. There are lots of creative solutions if you're due now. Some of them might be you could go away somewhere that's still in normal driving distance of your hospital. Or if you're having a home birth, maybe your midwife can just switch her destination to the place that you're staying if it's within her radius. And you could totally get creative with this. Don't be afraid. Think of an idea that maybe is a little bit outside of the box. Maybe this year it's a little too late to do that, but you could do that for future years. And then after you thought of your idea, you could see how maybe you could possibly make it work. You might come up with something really cool. Don't doubt yourself yet. And speaking of home births, if you're worried about chametz in your house brought by your birth team, don't be nervous. Some of the most amazing midwives and doulas aren't Jewish. And I know some of them personally, and they are so culturally sensitive. Make sure you have a good one and a good people on your team. And just make sure to tell them to keep their food to themselves discreetly, to eat and to clean up after themselves. And the chametz in their bag belongs to them. It's not in your possession. And if you want to give your providers or your doula a rundown of all the things you need culturally, including Shabbos, Yom Tov, kosher, and all the things, I got a short, straight to the point Google Doc for you. You could just give it to them. Print it out and give it to them. So you could sign up for my email list. I put the link in the show notes and I will send it straight to you. One more interesting question that I got was about oral vitamin K. So in most births, babies get a vitamin K injection once they're born. And I'm not going to go into right now, but there are risks and there are benefits and there are alternatives to everything. And I talk about this a lot in my birth course. One of the alternatives is oral vitamin K. And that comes with its own risks and benefits. So do your research and ask your own provider. And I obviously, as I said, I do teach this in my birth course that's coming up after Pesach, Emir Hashem. So stay tuned for that if you're interested. And it was hard for her to find answers about if the oral version is chametz, because this is such an uncommon way for babies to get vitamin K, the choice that she made. But she did her due diligence and she found an understanding Rav who was able to give her the answer for her own individual situation. So to summarize, your Rav is your friend and a guide in all these things. Call your Rav. Call your Rav. Call your Rav. One more thing. Another mother was telling me how cool it is that she's due on Pesach and how excited she feels about it. It's really inconvenient, she was telling me. Obviously, we have the story of the Mialdos, the Jewish midwives, and that's really cool what they were and what they were able to do. and the Jewish women, what they were able to accomplish in general. But also, Paro was one of the first ones who tried to destroy our nation. And we know he wasn't the only one. He tried many ways to get rid of us. And in every generation, they tried to do the same. They tried to destroy us spiritually and physically throughout the ages. They closed mikvaos. Shelo echad bilvad amad aleinu lechalosenu. We say in the Agada. But you, as a Jewish woman, are going through with your pregnancy. And this awesome mother was telling me, I am doing it with joy. You are not letting the ones who hate us and want to obliterate us win. You deserve all the applause. You are fighting them together with Hashem. V'hakadosh baruch hu matzilenu miyadam. Hashem should be with you and walk with you in your pregnancy and birth journey right now. And in this sechus of what you are doing, we should be free from this galus, this dark, bitter galus, right now. I would love to hear what you think. Message me on Instagram @TorahBirthing or send me an email, torahbirthing@gmail.com.